Hello graphic designers, this is Mr. Granlund again, and today we're going to take a look at number 4 tutorial, the text face. So this uses a bunch of different skills and we're going to refine those skills, and all of these skills are building up to help you with the first summative project of this unit, which is going to be a self-portrait. In this one we're going to put a lot of different skills together and make something very, very cool. So the text face, you're going to find a portrait, a headshot of someone that you would like to create into something like that. Over here we have a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and I have a link to this exact tutorial that you can use, or you can listen to mine, whichever you would rather do. So let's get started. We're going to start off by finding a picture of someone that we think is incredible. So for me, Mala Yousafzai, I'm looking for a black and white photo. This often works best if you can find a black and white photo that has a black background to it already. But if you don't know who Mala is, she is I think she's the youngest ever to receive a Nobel Peace Prize for her work. And there's a short article about her here that I'm going to use for the text. So I'm going to start by copying the picture here. Right click, copy. I'm going to hop on over to Photoshop, create a new project. For this one, I do want the resolution to be 300 pixels. So I'm going to change this to inches. Change the resolution to 300. I don't want it this big. So I'm going to do half of 35. 35 divided by 2 is 17.5. 26 divided by 2 is 13. It's still a little on the big side, but that'll be fine. This will be a poster size. I'll create that. And I'm going to paste in my picture. And I'm going to have to size this up. So Control T on the keyboard, or you can do Edit and Free Transform. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and make the image really nice and big. Hit Enter to accept. In the Layers palette, if your picture does not have a black background like this, then you need to cut out the image to put a black background to it. I'm going to show you the process of doing that. One tool that might work well is the Quick Selection tool. I'm going to click and hold and drag on the person that I'm selecting here. It gets a little tricky on the far side of Mala's face here. And anytime you're doing a selection, you're going to want to zoom in, so Control plus, and add or subtract to that selection. So I'm going to go to my Lasso Tool or my Polygon Lasso Tool, whatever works best. I'm going to hold Shift, and you see it has a Lasso plus. And what that does is it allows me to add that selection that I just did to my selection. Or if I don't want that much selected, I can hold Alt and it subtracts away. And I just want to get just my selection there. Just going to do little chunks at a time. And then I'm going to select and refine my selection here. So select mask on my version. You might also see refine up here, refine selection. And I just want to take everything away. I'm going to increase the radius. I'm going to smooth it out. Smooth out my selection, feather it a little bit, contrast it a little bit, click OK. And now I'm going to make a new layer with that. I can do Control J on the keyboard. I could Alt, and that will make a new layer like that one. I could also select the inverse and then hit delete, and that works. Whatever you want to do is you want to erase out the background that you don't want. I'm going to also create a new layer by clicking this button, or go to Layer, New, Layer, Shift-Control-N, and then I'm going to fill that with black. So Edit, Fill, or Shift F5, and we're going to use black. Click OK. I'm going to combine these together to make a new layer. I basically wind up with the same result that I had because I found my first result was I found a picture with a black background on it. But you need this kind of picture, and I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to do Control L, or Image, Adjustments, Levels, and I'm just going to make it a little bit less bright. I'm going to bring this down and that down. So everything just seems a little bit dimmer, just kind of medium gray. So you want this kind of medium gray look to your portrait. So before levels, after levels. Before, after. Okay, this will become important later. We're going to save this as a Photoshop file called Displacement. So File, Save, type in Displacement, and save that. Now, we're going to find some text about this. It might be a speech, it might be an article about them. I'm going to use this article about Malala right here. Copy. And if you don't know who this is, she's an incredible young woman who, read about her, okay? I can't emphasize this enough. She's cool. Read about her. All right, copy that. And then we're going to go back to Photoshop. And I'm going to find the text tool. And I'm going to click and highlight. Make a box over the whole thing. And I'm going to make the point about 11-point font. My text style is not going to be Goonies. You can select pretty much anything you want. You want something that's kind of readable, but it's going to be very small. A Remo. And if you notice, it's really spread out. So I need to adjust some things about the characters. So I'm going to go to Window, Character, and I want this line spacing here where it's A over A. I want this to be a little bit less than the size of the text here. So if I have 11-point font, I want a 10-point spacing. If I have a little bit larger font, like 15, you're going to have to play it by ear. That looks good. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this text over and over and paste it in there. So highlight it. Now if you're using song lyrics, you might have like a lot of weird spaces in there. Articles tend to work better, but I want the whole thing covered in the text. We're going to accept that. Now we're going to turn this into a regular layer. Select, or layer, rasterize, type. So now it's just a regular layer. And we're going to apply a displacement map to it. So, filter, distort, displace, and we're going to do 5 and 5. Okay. We're going to click that displacement thing that we saved earlier. Open that. And it just kind of shifts it a little bit. Before, after. Before, after. Here's where it gets a little magical. Because now we're going to switch this from normal to overlay. Now it's a little hard to see. We want to make it a little bit brighter. So if we do Control J, it gets a little bit brighter. Do it again. So every time we add another layer by doing Control J or duplicating the layer, it gets a little bit brighter till we get like this. I'm going to add some color to this. So I'm going to go to this 50-50 circle right here. I'm going to go to Gradient. And I'm going to select a couple of layers. Now, it's giving me this gray thing, which is annoying. And the reason is my mode, my picture mode, is not set up right. So if that's happening to you, go up to Image and Mode. It's on grayscale. I got to change it to RGB color. Don't flatten. Let's try this again. 50-50 circle. Gradient. Now it's colorful. Much better. And I'm going to use white and a green. And I'm going to flip-flop these. So it's white on top and green on the bottom. Okay. Now we're going to change the blending mode of this layer. Change it from normal to color. Now you could do any kind of thing that you wanted. You could paint random colors. You could do multiple different gradients. But this applies a color to the whole thing. To finish this off, I'm going to just put her name off to the side here in a cool looking font. To make sure I spell it correctly, I'm going to grab it from there, paste it. I'm going to increase the font, click and drag that. I'm going to Control T. Oh, get rid of that layer. Control T, rotate it. And if I hold Shift, it locks it in at 90 degrees. You can do more to this. If you have questions, please send them over to me. But this looks pretty good for turning it in. You'll get full credit at this stage. So let's go ahead and save it. File. Save as. We'll call this text face now. And since we're turning it in, we'll select JPEG. Save. Select larger file. OK. And then head on over to Schoology and submit your file.